Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question that might just change your life. Are you holding on so tightly to who you used to be that you're choking the future version of who you were meant to become? Because in a world that changes every second, the greatest liability is not losing, it's refusing to bend. In today's fast-moving, ever-evolving world, one truth has become absolutely undeniable. Flexibility is no longer a trait reserved for the easygoing or the passive. It is a survival skill, a weapon, a superpower. The world is shifting in real time. Technology, culture, the economy, and even people's expectations are all transforming faster than ever before. What worked 5 years ago might be obsolete today. What made you successful last season could hold you back in this one. The only way to stay relevant, effective, and impactful in such an environment is to master the art of flexibility. Flexibility doesn't mean compromise. It doesn't mean being flaky or indecisive. It means being so focused on your purpose that you're willing to change the process. It means understanding that your mission is the foundation, but your method is just a tool, and tools can be upgraded. A rigid person clings to what used to work, hoping the past will come back and make sense of the present. But a flexible person says, if the game has changed, I'm changing the way I play. That kind of mindset doesn't just protect you, it positions you to win. People often misunderstand strength. They think it's about being hard, tough, and immovable. But real strength is found in those who can bend under pressure without snapping. Flexibility is what allows you to adjust your grip when life starts to slip. It lets you navigate uncertainty without losing control. It gives you the power to make progress when the path isn't clear, and to innovate when old solutions stop working. The ones who survive are not the ones who resist change. They're the ones who learn how to dance with it. You can look around and see entire industries that have collapsed simply because they couldn't or wouldn't adapt. Businesses, careers, and even relationships fall apart when the people involved are too committed to what was and not committed enough to what could be. Flexibility allows you to stay in the game when everyone else is frozen by fear. It keeps you from getting stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. It opens your eyes to solutions hiding in plain sight because you're willing to let go of control and trust the process of transformation. Being flexible isn't easy. It takes humility. You have to admit that you don't have all the answers. You have to release your ego and acknowledge that your favorite way might not be the best way anymore. But in return, you gain something more valuable than comfort. You gain clarity. You gain resilience. You gain momentum. Because the world doesn't slow down to accommodate the rigid. It keeps moving. And if you don't move with it, you risk being left behind. Flexibility trains your mind to focus on what matters most. Your goals, your values, your calling, without being held hostage by the details. It makes you quicker to recognize opportunities and faster to act on them. It builds a kind of quiet confidence that says, no matter what changes, I can adjust, I can grow, and I can still win. Flexibility becomes the fuel that powers consistency through chaos and progress through pain. It's not a soft skill, it's a survival skill, a leadership trait, and a requirement for anyone who wants to do more than just exist in this new world. Hold your mission. Release your method is one of the most powerful principles for thriving in an ever-changing world. It's a mindset that separates those who remain stuck from those who break through. The mission is your purpose, your reason for waking up, your why, the legacy you want to leave behind. The method, on the other hand, is the strategy you use to accomplish it. The problem is, most people fall in love with the method instead of the mission. They confuse the tool with the outcome. They cling so tightly to how they've always done things that they don't realize the world has moved on, and now they're standing still in a fast-moving stream. Your mission should be fixed. It should be anchored in deep conviction and unwavering clarity. That doesn't change. Whether the economy is up or down, whether technology evolves or society shifts, your mission remains the same. But the way you pursue that mission must be flexible, because the conditions around you will never stay the same. Life is dynamic, not static. What got you here won't necessarily get you there. And the danger of refusing to change your method is that eventually your method starts to betray your mission. It becomes a roadblock instead of a roadmap. This is where ego becomes the enemy. People often confuse loyalty with stubbornness. They believe changing the method is equivalent to giving up, but in reality, it's the opposite. Releasing the method is not abandoning your mission, it's protecting it. It's the willingness to say, I care about my vision so much that I refuse to let outdated strategies hold it hostage. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's leadership. You're not discarding your values. You're discarding the version of yourself that can't carry them forward anymore. Adaptability is not compromise, it's optimization. Every great innovator, every impactful leader, every history maker understood this. They were so committed to their mission that they were willing to reinvent themselves, rewire their habits, and rethink their approach. If the mission was to serve people and the old model wasn't doing it anymore, they weren't afraid to upgrade the model. If the mission was to spread a message and the platform changed, they didn't whine about the past, they mastered the new platform. It's about being flexible in your approach, but immovable in your purpose. When you hold the mission tightly and the method loosely, you give yourself the freedom to evolve. You give yourself room to breathe, to grow, and to innovate. That's where transformation happens. That's how you stay relevant in a changing world. You don't marry your method, you marry your mission. Methods are tools, and tools are meant to be sharpened, changed, replaced, even discarded if they no longer serve their purpose. But the mission, that's sacred. That's untouchable. That's the one thing you never let go of, no matter how many times the journey shifts or the blueprint needs rewriting. Discomfort is the doorway to growth because nothing powerful, permanent, or purposeful ever comes from staying comfortable. Comfort may feel good, but it doesn't stretch you. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't force you to level up. It keeps you exactly where you are, emotionally safe, mentally idle, spiritually asleep. But growth doesn't care about your comfort zone. Growth lives just beyond the edges of your convenience. And that's why discomfort isn't your enemy, it's your invitation. Most people run from discomfort. They try to avoid it, numb it, or escape it. But the truth is, the moment you start feeling discomfort is the exact moment you're touching the edge of your next level. It means something is shifting. Something is waking up inside of you. Your muscles don't grow until they're under tension. Your faith doesn't expand until it's tested. Your vision doesn't sharpen until it's stretched by uncertainty. Discomfort is the heat that refines, the pressure that shapes, the resistance that strengthens. If you only do what feels good, you'll never become who you're capable of being. Growth demands resistance. It requires you to walk into rooms where you don't feel ready, speak truths you've been avoiding, and attempt things that scare you. It's uncomfortable to confront your limitations. It's uncomfortable to admit what's not working. It's uncomfortable to try something new and risk failure. But every time you do, you unlock a part of yourself that was dormant. You discover new strength, new resilience, new clarity. And none of that would have happened if you chose to stay comfortable. The difference between winners and everyone else is not talent, it's tolerance. Specifically, their ability to tolerate discomfort. High performers have learned to sit in discomfort long enough for growth to take root. They don't panic in pain, they lean into it. They use it. They ask, what is this trying to teach me, instead of how fast can I make it stop? And because they've trained themselves to embrace discomfort, they get results others only dream about. Growth doesn't announce itself politely. It comes disguised as inconvenience, challenge, and frustration. It's hidden in the difficult conversations you don't want to have, the long nights you don't feel like enduring, the self-discipline you don't think you can maintain. But on the other side of that discomfort is strength. On the other side is wisdom. On the other side is a version of you that looks back and says, I didn't think I could do that, but I did. That's the power of discomfort. It reveals to you what was always inside of you, but hidden behind fear. You won't always feel like growing, but if you're willing to get uncomfortable, you will always be expanding. When discomfort shows up, don't retreat. Recognize it as your next assignment. It means you're alive. It means you're evolving. It means you're not settling for average. The more discomfort you're willing to endure with purpose, the more progress you'll make with power. Discomfort is not the wall, it's the door. And it's waiting for you to walk through. Pivot with power. Don't panic in pressure. That's the mindset that separates winners from quitters, visionaries from victims, leaders from followers. Life doesn't ask for permission before it applies pressure. It doesn't send a memo before the market shifts, the job changes, the relationship ends, or the opportunity disappears. But when the pressure comes, and it always does, it's not meant to paralyze you. It's meant to provoke the strength in you that was dormant until now. And the people who rise, the people who lead, the people who dominate their space are the ones who don't fold under pressure, they pivot. Pivoting doesn't mean running away or giving up. It means making a calculated move with intention, not emotion. It's adjusting your angle without abandoning your aim. You're not quitting the goal, you're shifting the strategy. That's power. Panic, on the other hand, is what happens when you let fear dictate your decisions. Panic causes you to shrink when you should be stretching. It clouds your judgment, amplifies your doubt, and robs you of momentum. Panic says everything's falling apart, but power says something is falling into place. I just need to find it. Pressure has a way of revealing who's been pretending and who's been preparing. When pressure hits, unprepared people collapse. They rely on excuses, point fingers, and play small. But people who are rooted in purpose, they lean in, they pivot, they pause, assess, recalibrate, and move with precision. They're not thrown off by what changes. They're driven by what doesn't change. Their vision, their values, and their belief that the mission matters more than the moment. If you're going to win in today's world, you have to develop pivot power. That's the ability to adapt quickly without losing direction. It's not about reacting impulsively, it's about responding wisely. It's knowing when to shift gears, when to let go of a failing method, when to reroute without regret. That's what leaders do. They don't panic because the path got rough. They don't freeze because the plan didn't work. They move, and they move with authority. Most people lose in life not because they lacked talent or resources, but because they panicked when pressure showed up. They assumed pressure was a sign they were doing something wrong, when in reality, pressure often shows up right before breakthrough. The greatest breakthroughs are often on the other side of the greatest pressure. But you only access them if you stay grounded and keep your mind strong. Pivoting with power means you refuse to let the situation define your outcome. You define the situation by the way you respond to it. You might have to take a different route. You might have to shift the business model, adjust the message, or rebuild the team. But that's not failure, it's flexibility. That's not chaos, it's strategy. Every powerful person you admire had to pivot at some point. Every giant had to face a storm that tested everything they believed. And when the pressure hit, they didn't panic. They got sharper, they got smarter, they got bolder, and they rose. Rebuild without regret, restart without fear. That's a mindset that frees you from being a prisoner of the past and equips you to shape a better future. Life has a way of knocking down the structures we once relied on, whether it's a business that failed, a relationship that ended, a career that shifted, or a dream that didn't go as planned. The natural instinct is to look back with regret, to replay what went wrong, and to beat yourself up over what you could have done differently. But regret doesn't rebuild anything. It only paralyzes your progress. To rebuild powerfully, you have to stop treating your past as a prison and start using it as a blueprint. Regret is a thief that sneaks in disguised as reflection. It makes you think you're growing by looking back, when in reality, you're just getting stuck there. The truth is, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And now you know better, which means you can build better. Rebuilding isn't about recreating what was lost. It's about constructing something stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you've become. That takes courage. That takes vision. But it also takes the willingness to let go of regret so you can pick up responsibility for what comes next. Restarting without fear means you're not allowing failure to become your identity. Failure is an event, not a person. You're not your mistakes. You're not your breakdowns. You're not the chapter where it all fell apart. Fear wants to convince you that starting over means you've lost time, that people will judge you, that it's too late. But the truth is, restarting is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of strength. It says, I'm not done yet. There's still more in me. My story isn't over just because a page got torn. People who succeed at high levels have learned how to restart without dragging shame into the next chapter. They understand that fear is part of the process, but they refuse to be led by it. They see restarting not as going backward, but as aligning with a better trajectory. They're not trying to rebuild the old version of their life. They're building something new with the lessons the last version taught them. Every time you restart, you come back stronger because you're bringing experience with you. You're bringing clarity. You're bringing resilience. And that's not starting from scratch. That's starting from wisdom. The key to rebuilding without regret and restarting without fear is this. You have to believe that your future is still worthy of faith. You have to trust that what's ahead is greater than what's behind. That's not blind optimism. That's intentional belief. That's deciding to act on hope instead of hiding in hesitation. You will not always feel ready, but readiness is a decision before it's a feeling. And when you rebuild from a place of peace instead of punishment, and restart from a place of courage instead of comparison, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. Because your next move isn't defined by what broke you, it's defined by your willingness to rise anyway. Legends are built in the chaos because greatness is not forged in comfort, it's refined in crisis. When the world is spinning, when nothing is certain, when fear is loud and everything you built starts to shake, that's where legends are made. Not when things are smooth, not when the path is clear, not when the conditions are perfect. Real strength, real innovation, real legacy is born in the middle of disorder. Chaos doesn't destroy legends, it defines them. It draws the line between those who fold and those who rise, between those who shrink back and those who step up. Chaos doesn't ask for permission, it just shows up. It shows up as loss, disruption, betrayal, rejection, failure, and unexpected detours. And most people waste that chaos. They panic, they retreat, they complain and wait for things to calm down before they move forward. But legends move anyway. They don't need the storm to stop before they start building. They don't need certainty to take action. They look at the mess and ask, what can I create with this? Because what looks like destruction to the average person looks like raw material to someone destined to lead. You don't find out who you really are when everything's going right. You find out when everything's going wrong. That's when your faith gets tested. That's when your character gets exposed. That's when your vision gets stretched. And that's exactly where legends are born. They don't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect moment because they know the perfect moment doesn't exist. They understand that chaos is not the enemy. It's the training ground. It's the pressure that produces diamonds. It's the furnace that burns away weakness and reveals what's unbreakable. Most people pray for peace, but legends learn how to build in the storm. They build their business, their body, their mindset, their message, all while things are still uncertain. They don't need applause. They don't need comfort. They don't need validation. All they need is a mission they refuse to quit on and a mindset that refuses to be shaken. Because the truth is, anyone can win when everything's easy. But it takes a different kind of person to win when everything's hard. It takes grit, vision, discipline, and faith to keep showing up when everything around you is falling apart. Chaos has a way of eliminating distractions. It strips away the things you thought you needed and leaves you face to face with the essentials. You realize what matters. You find clarity in the middle of confusion. And in that moment, you're either going to break or you're going to break through. Legends break through. They don't wait for the world to give them permission to be great. They write their story while the ink is still running. They make bold moves while others are paralyzed. They understand that chaos is temporary, but the legacy you build in it can last forever. If you study history, every world changer, every pioneer, every disruptor was born in a moment of chaos. They didn't run from it, they leaned into it. They found opportunity in the rubble, vision in the fog, and strength in the struggle. And they didn't become legends because they avoided hard seasons. They became legends because they built something powerful right in the middle of one.